Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show. Welcome to, I think it's part 3 of Deities, Demigods, and Weirdos. So, I was talking to Vic a while ago on the show, and he's like, yeah, I said this before, his gods are, just kicking back, eating grapes, getting fanned by the ladies. And I'm like, yeah, that's it, I wonder just, how corpulent I'd have to be to where that would be like an enjoyable pastime. Maybe for like a little while, maybe before or after I jumped in the pool and did some other hanky-panky kind of stuff. But that's actually what most of the deities, demigods, and even some of the heroes spent, not just their day off, their free time, but that was like sometimes that was their mission, right? Odin and Zeus were famous for doing things that you and I might think kind of weird, but that's kind of one of the things they did a lot of back in the day, because that was, they didn't have roller coasters, so that's what they did, right? So I was thinking, one of my favorite stories of all time, spoilers, if you know, one of the gods, not going to say who or what, was pretended to be somebody else through a huge portion of a book, and when the big reveal came, it was like, oh my God, it was so well done. And I think you guys and this guy could pull things like that off with our deities. Maybe have them, either, there's a lot of stories of where the god would walk through a scene, testing the hero to see if he was a good person. Would he help the old lady across the street? Would he cough up some shekels? Would he, offer some food, things like that to the downtrodden, who of course were, one deity or another in disguise. The Platinum Dragon does that all the time. I've run into the Platinum Dragon as a player character like 3 times at least. Got to the point where it was like, are you the Platinum Dragon? Oh, no. And then you watch the DM like scramble to just, no, it's just an NPC, But I think we could get away with that, especially since probably most of you haven't done it in a while, or you're too afraid to do it, or you don't run those kind of games. But you've got clerics in the group. There's got to be stuff for them to do, and you got heroes. The gods are always pulling on the strings of reality in every story they exist in. And it seems to be a big shame, a big disappointment for the cleric players if their deities are just like, hey, Dad, can you wire me some money? I need a cure light wound spell and a restoration. If that's all they're good for, if that's literally they've been just reduced to, flip a coin, roll a die to see if they tell you the right answer from the spell. Or if they, give you the spell you so desperately need. They're watching. I mean, they know what you're doing. Do they think it's, warranted that you have a raised dead or a restoration or a, whatever, right? Your gods, in your game, they should be, kind of a big thing that's going on in the background. A lot of people, they deal with the political intrigue and the factions and blah, blah, blah. Well, who's pulling those strings? Every great mythology is run by them, and our game, our hobby, our stories eventually call back to the greatest of mythologies. Before there was science fiction and fantasy and the old romance stories, not the lust and dust, but the other kind, for those of you not familiar with the term. That's what they were. The gods were watching from on high, doing things. And later, when it just became, the one god, he too was watching, and you had Satan, Lucifer, whoever you want, messing with the protagonist, in other ways. Heck, even in never mind. But you get my point that we should take the opportunity as good DMs to insert the deities and have their missions and their goals and their desires be evident in at least the cleric's life, but maybe even possibly the rest of the heroes in the group, unless they're all of like opposing alignments, and he's just doesn't matter who he's the god to, he's just there to kick ass and cure light wounds, which I find so completely unsatisfying in the current environment. And honestly, I blame the OSR guys, because they know better and they've just gotten lazy over the years, and just wanting to run the procedural, go in a dungeon, kill the monsters, take their stuff, that none of the other things. The whole DMG is made up of more of that than combat. If you look at the original DMG, there's more written in it about everything else but combat than combat. It's how it's devolved into just a tabletop miniature skirmish game. Why it's become that. I mean, I don't know, but I'd like to see it go back to what it really was, where we didn't even use miniatures. I'm one of the biggest miniature guys out there, but I don't use them for actual role playing hardly at all. Even if I could, half the game, if not a third of the game, would be role playing. We don't need miniatures. Yeah, I don't need to draw up the room. I don't need to, draw every hallway that you're walking down, every city street, so that you know how far apart the buildings are, make sure they're up to code and that sort of thing. I'd love to hear what you guys think about deities and demigods in your games. Am I the only one? Do you guys use them? Is it just a little minor ability of the actual clerics is to have somebody big and famous, watching them from on high, only to do literally nothing? Because let's face it, a first level cleric, even a first level cleric, is known by the deity. They know who they are. They've already set their mission through the high priest telling the first level cleric, hey, you need to do this or you need to do that. That comes from up on high, and he or she knows what they're doing. They can watch all their people at the same time, literally, as far as I'm concerned. At least the greater gods, maybe the lesser and the whatnot, not so much, but at the very least, they're paying attention to what's going on. And you should too. I will see you guys in about 45 minutes with the Monday edition of Second Breakfast. Hope you guys had a great weekend. We'll talk to you real soon, and as always, happy trails.